On today's episode, we'll take a walk down memory lane and ask ourselves, if we were starting an agency again with little to no connections and a limited network, how would we jumpstart the business? Today, we'll talk about where to go to generate leads, why delivering for your clients matters so much at the early stage.
All right, Wook. So I think an easy place to start is just talk about how we got going some 19 years ago. So when we started Barrel, we were pretty fresh out of school, undergrads, and we had really no network. So we knew very few people, and yet we, started a business and decided that we could do this. So if you can recall back to the good old days, what were some of the things that we did to jumpstart the business?
Yeah. Early on, I think the big thing for us, we were really building our portfolio and trying to do as much work as possible for essentially anyone who would pay us at that stage. So everything from student groups to small businesses in New York City to nonprofits that we were introduced to. But it was really just tapping our personal network to find any work that we could take on to build a portfolio of work for us.
Yeah, I think some of the challenges with anybody starting a business is you are kind of constrained to your network, and it's even more challenging when you're earlier in your career because you just haven't had time to compound and build those relationships. Yeah, I remember one of the things we did was it wasn't just people who would pay us, but actually for people who just needed work done. And I think we did a lot of pro bono work, and I remember some of the earlier work that we did were for some nonprofits in the city, and I think that was a deliberate strategy on our part.
Yeah, I think the nonprofits was actually a kind of a great way for us to, one, kind of build that portfolio, but also be introduced to the network of people that were involved in those nonprofits. So usually it's people more seasoned in their careers that are a little further along that have other jobs outside of the nonprofit. And from that, it was by association, we were kind of meeting these individuals that we, essentially wouldn't have met otherwise.
And even today, I we're still connected to folks that we met back then. And, many of them were actually volunteers, also like, young professionals earlier in their careers, but, wanting to get involved with something in the community. And those people, some of them have gone on to be founders, marketing leaders and, executives at other companies. So it's kind of interesting how, just us going out of our way to, connect with these folks has turned into like relationships, multi-decade relationships.
Yeah, and we'll kind of talk more about that, but it's it all comes down to the people and how your clients, they may you may work with them on one project, but that person may go to other companies and may know other people, and it's kind of a snowball effect of introductions that could stem from one relationship a long time ago.
Right. And one of the things that, you and I always talk about, especially with our agencies at Barrel Holdings is, in the early days, especially how important it is to make sure that, every opportunity needs to basically be a home run in the sense of, these are connections that, that we need to really deliver for the work, no matter how small the project may be. And, and just by doing that, it's actually the best form of marketing is, a happy customer. So maybe we could speak more on that point.
Especially when you have a mix of clients. So you might have some paying clients, and then there might be some lower budget clients or pro bono clients. Just because somebody is paying you nothing or little doesn't mean you should give them a less than premium experience. I think really the goal of that, the reason why you took on that project is to develop that reputation, to develop the relationship, and put out a product, both from the the end result of what you're delivering, but the product of that person's full experience from end to end working with you. So it's really, yeah, it's almost like, think of it as a marketing expense, yeah, for the business.
Yeah, and I think it has this kind of effect of, I mean, it could be a gift that keeps on giving. So um, make an advocate out of a client, a super fan, and they end up, they could have a multiplier effect, right? That one point of contact could become, a few more leads that become clients, and then, you do a good job for those folks, and then, maybe a couple of those become, refers of new leads, and it kind of once you daisy chain these, referrals on top of each other, all of a sudden, these things kind of multiply really quickly.
We've been talking about a few different areas that we've been tapping. Pete, do you remember, what are some other networks that we kind of tapped in our early days to get going?
We played up a few different angles. I know, just you and I being Korean Americans, we definitely, you know, uh, saw. I mean, first of all, we volunteered with various organizations, and through that we became kind of the go-to guys to do websites for a lot of these Korean American nonprofits, especially in New York City, and that led to a lot of great connections over the years as well. Like, folks kind of introducing us to others in the Korean American community, but also outside of it, as a result of our involvement there. So that was one. I think another one was our obviously our Columbia connections. Helped a lot. Just folks that were in our respective classes, or people that we knew from Columbia, and Columbia itself became a client, and the different departments kind of referring work to us. So that was a big one. And I'd say we started getting involved in kind of the startup community as well. So these were kind of the 2010s when Silicon Alley became a thing, and there was a lot of startup activity. So knowing a bunch of folks in that ecosystem, and we ended up partnering with a lot of different folks, whether it was partnering with, like, let's say, a consulting company, or another agency to do work, maybe the development side or the design side of a project, that led to a lot of new relationships. So yeah, I think there were a number of these kinds of, like, you know, subgroups or communities that we tapped, and none of this came fast. I mean, it took years, honestly. Like, that was the thing that I think we should get across to folks is, it's not like we hung out our shingle for barrel and then all of a sudden we were able to tap these groups and get new business. I mean, some of these things took many years. Some of them might have given us leads initially and then went dormant for a while, only to be reactivated later. So it's actually, you know there was no clear kind of like thing that led to a lot of business, but it was kind of the accumulation of many of these relationships over time that compounded, and then started to deliver more and more opportunities for us.
Yeah, I remember the early days. It was a lot of a kind of like a ground game of just being visible and out there in the community. You mentioned the startup community in New York City. I remember it's just, there are events all the time, daily events, events on weekends, people throwing happy hours, events at their offices, and we were just everywhere, just trying to meet people. Same for all these nonprofit events. And it was, through these, in-person interactions where we would see the same person at these events, over a long period of time. That's where, you develop these personal relationships that could ultimately, and, ultimately did lead into, work. And some of these people we've met decades ago at this point that we're still connected with. And, yeah, it's interesting. I think even in today's day, a lot of these may have been replaced with like Slack groups and like other more virtual means of bringing together these communities. But I think the in person aspect is still really important.
Yeah, no, and I can't emphasize that enough, because yeah, I think showing up and being there in person has definitely a different feel, and especially today, like, just because the we feel even today, right? Like, you have a introduction and a good convo with somebody on Zoom or a video call, and then but then, like, the relationship really materializes something more once you meet that person, meet that person in person, in real life, right? And so I think that that has held true for us, over the last couple of decades because yeah, any of these folks that we might have, met multiple times. And one of the things, remember, we used to whenever we would go visit a city to just visit clients, we'd also just make the effort to reach out to other folks, right? A lot of times it was like other agency owners in different cities, whether it was like LA, SF, just all over the place. And then like those relationships would keep over the years, and it could materialize into us sharing leads with each other, or maybe even just talking shop and sharing ideas. And so I think, yeah, when we look back, it's the out of the going out of our way to meet with people in person, kind of get them to know us and get to know them. That's kind of made this made all these things kind of work over time.
Yeah, it's interesting. You talk about other agencies, and I think not consciously we were building a referral network. In hindsight, that's we kind of put some language around it. But what would you say are some other areas that really helped us build that network of people in the ecosystem that ultimately helped us, yeah, drive some leads to our business?
Yeah, no, I think the agency angle is really important. I think we first kind of got a taste of it when we work with kind of agencies with complementary services. So, I think it might have began with, us needing help on, let's say, branding or some kind of print design, and bringing a partner in to help us do that while we focus on the website. But then that, because we brought them an opportunity later when that firm needed, was working on a project with another client, they would bring us in to do the digital part. And so I think that started building upon itself where, we kind of look out for each other and really have a select group of firms that we could send work to. So that really helped. And then there were kind of these, I call them like big sibling, little sibling relationships where we, befriend kind of, folks that became our mentors and, just ran, they're further along with their agencies, working with bigger clients. And then anytime they had opportunities that were smaller, and just, a poor fit for them, but a great fit for us, that was a really great source of opportunities as well. And so, yeah, I think those types of, yeah, partnerships really, accelerated kind of our growth. And then yeah, beyond that, I think we also met some key folks in the investment community, whether it's private equity or venture capital, and that kind of gave us a peek into like, hey, if you have an intermediary who has like a portfolio of companies that they have access to, just having the relationship with that connector is very important because they can then you know introduce us to multiple companies at the same time versus, a lot of times when you have a client working in one business and then they, you're kind of, you get the benefit of them moving to another company before another opportunity pops up. But some of these investment folks are very well connected and are continually seeing deal flow. So I think that was another unlock in terms of, a referral channel. So yeah, I think those are kind of the big ones. And then of course, like we did have I still think about like friends and family, like you kind of you still that's like an underrated one where we've gotten opportunities through the kind of closer relationships that we might have had, and folks that we might have grown up with, or people kind of relatives or whatever, giving us opportunities as well.
Yeah, I think yeah, there is so many different channels, people that we've met. I think underlying it all, it's honestly, it's all about, yeah, it's the understanding that relationships are, yeah, it's think of it as a kind of a compounding um, thing where it's not just one project you're working on with a person. It's that over time it can lead to many other relationships and many more opportunities. I would say some of our best opportunities have come from our past clients, either through people they've referred us to or themselves moving to other companies. Um, and it's yeah, it's really making sure that everyone, we talked about it earlier with the pro bono concept, but no matter what the engagement is, making sure that everyone has a really premium experience, and ultimately it's your reputation that kind of carries you through.
Yeah. And I think, this is an important point. Maybe you could speak to this. Like, there's obviously you know, the having worked with somebody, or also just having, had that connection and some in-person meetings. But like, I think over the years, we've invested in various ways of staying top of mind. And I think maybe you could speak to kind of, yeah, what have we done over the years that's helped us to not, to make sure those relationships don't go dormant or, just kind of, die out over time, and how have we kept them alive?
Yeah. One of the things that we've done um, is just create a consistent cadence of reaching out to people from the past. So every week, it started with the partners at Barrel, where we would each kind of go out and started with two people, and that kind of number increased over time. Every week, just consistently, whatever you can. Reach out, make a connection with somebody. Could be a ex, colleague, ex client, ex someone you went to school with decades ago. But if you haven't spoken with them in a while, just use it as an opportunity to catch up. And not so, not make it like a hard sell of, hey, here's our services and here, you know, you should buy from us, but more just as an opportunity to kind of rekindle that relationship.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I remember a moment, this was like a period some years ago when, yeah, our pipeline was especially dry. We weren't closing as much business as we wanted, and we were kind of looking at a big shortfall in terms of revenue. And yeah, I think, but we had kept this habit of, weekly outreach. And I remember, like, in a span of a couple weeks, like, you were able to reactivate some old contacts and, like, sign like over seven figures worth of business that, like, really turned things around for that quarter. So yeah, I mean, we got lucky, and obviously we don't want to kind of, see our companies in that situation regularly. But, like, I think the interesting thing is that, yeah, like, when you have a consistent habit, you open yourself up to, kind of good fortune like that. It's not kind of, pure luck. It's kind of, generated luck.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, a lot of those the opportunities that came up were from contacts maybe 3 6 months ago, where you have a conversation with someone, and it's not like they immediately have an opportunity for you, but over time, if you're top of mind, you know, opportunities may or may not come about. But it's more the consistency, making sure that you continue doing it. Because if you start doing it when you need it, then it's probably too late at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Couple other things I'll add to the outreach. I think, we have, uh, I mean, we encourage all of our agencies to, send out a monthly mailing. And, some of them send actually two. One might be like just updates on recent work that they've launched for clients, or kind of showcasing some of the work side of things. And then another one, allow them to call it like a friends and advisors, or partners kind of email, where they're targeting specifically folks that have given them referrals in the past or are likely to give referrals in the future, and giving them an update, and as well as shout outs to folks who have given referrals in the past month. And I think those mailings have been really great for staying top of mind, and have actually generated more leads, because when people see that, oh yeah, like, I forgot that, I can refer opportunities to these guys. I think it just creates this natural opening for them to think about our firms. So I think that's a good one. And then there's also the basics that we talk about, just showing up on places like LinkedIn, as well as, making sure the website's up to date. And there's other things that, investing in things like SEO, or, maybe even, PPC ads that, could work for certain types of keywords.
I think that's marketing is an interesting one because you could do the work, and you obviously have the relationship with the client that directly worked on it with you, but sharing your work, so investing time into building case studies and documenting what you did, and then distributing that through your website, LinkedIn, email, all these channels, I think is a underrated, possibly marketing activity where you just need to put the time into letting people know, what you did for your clients.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, before we kind of wrap up, just, maybe a couple other channels slash, like, referral uh kind of opportunities. One thing that, I wanted to touch on are tech platforms, because that is something we've benefited greatly from. And so maybe we could speak to that in terms of, like, how that's been a source of opportunities, especially, whether it was later for some of our agencies, or early going for some of our agencies.
I guess the one example is Barrel did a lot of work on Shopify as a technology platform. And since the early days before they are what they are now, but it was really aligning ourselves with typically there's a partnerships team within the tech partner, and uh, being visible and everything from working on deals together to close a client that may not be on the platform to speaking at conferences where you can share kind of insights from your experience, doing webinars and other kind of co-marketing activities. And ultimately, it's you want to help the platform. So the more kind of leads you can generate organically through your own ecosystem to the platform kind of helps in their eyes, and they could share leads as well. But I think that's kind of as the platform grows, you kind of grow with the tailwinds kind of pushing you with the growth of the tech platform.
Yeah.
And as a platform like Shopify grows, there are other kind of auxiliary tech platforms like email platforms or loyalty platforms or et cetera also grow and can be a source of really strong leads for a business too.
No, I think the solutions partners and yeah, these
Mhm.
apps are really key, and the ecosystem could be very rich. So, and I think we're seeing, we started more deliberately with Webflow for our agency BX Studio, and I think we've seen kind of the benefits of good timing, where you have a platform that's growing really quickly, not many players, kind of planting a flag for that platform just yet, but then kind of getting in. Getting to understand, their go to market and tying our efforts along with that has been a really good learning. And one more, I think we could close on this is the role of kind of intermediaries that do charge for opportunities, and so we might call them marketing brokers, or these are kind of these commission based referral networks. Maybe you could speak to kind of our relationship with these types of intermediaries.
I would say there are a lot out there, and typically the way that it works is you know, if there are they have an ecosystem of agencies that are part of their network, and then they have opportunities that come to them either just through directly to the partner, or agencies who can't take on projects for a variety of reasons may kind of share it with the broker, who can then share it with the network of agencies. But from there, yeah, typically it's a commission structure that you're paying on the introduction, and if you win the work, a percentage of your revenue for the first year. But I would say it's one of many things in the toolbox of ways
Yeah.
to generate leads. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a big takeaway, and we started this with like, how would we jumpstart a lead gen, um, how would you jumpstart kind of opportunities for an agency from the get go? And the truth is like it's important to focus in a few areas because you can't kind of tackle everything at once. But then it's also important not to put all your eggs in one basket. So for example, even if you have a great tech partner relationship or platform, that can have its own pitfalls over time. Same with marketing brokers, because like if you're just totally relying on their leads, then you're really not building. I mean, it's an expensive place to get leads. If you think about commissions that reach from 10 to 30% on the work that you're doing, and then I think more importantly, just kind of going back to, you can never take your eye off of delivering for your clients, because at the end, doesn't matter how many leads and opportunities that you get, if you don't deliver and you don't build these kinds of super fans who are going to give you more referrals, you're just going to be a leaky bucket that never compounds over time.
I think we shared a lot about our experience. I think there's no silver bullet in any of this, but hopefully this is helpful and kind of sharing how we kind of went about yeah, building our network and our client base.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's it for this episode. Thanks for tuning in.